Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. See, that's all you hear. You don't. They're talking over there. You don't hear anything.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. See what happens.
Turn it over to Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Good evening, Council. The first thing on the agenda is the Sawmill Branch Trail Design Guidelines Master Plan. This was a project, was a partnership between the town of Summerville, Dorchester, and the Dorchester County and the Greater Summerville-Dorchester County Chamber of Commerce. This master plan it's a very useful document for us. Up on the screen is just an example of where they took the, one of the trailheads and gave a new layout and a view of what it could look like. It also gave us a template for when we're building future trails, kind of a standard set of guidelines to follow. So very useful tool for us. One of the things that we were looking for as part of this project. Perfect. The committee was trying to come up with a name for the larger greenway system. So the section of trail that exists now, the Sawmill Branch Trail, that name will stay the same. And as future sections are built, each section would have a unique name, but the greater overarching greenway, the proposed name is the Loblolly Greenway. Loblolly, for those who may not know, is a pine tree that's native to this area. And these are two logos. So I just wanted to kind of present the concept to council. If you guys had any feedback, I could take back to the group. And then, of course, we're going to still work a little bit on the logo and have a final version to present to you.
Yeah, as I looked at them, I like the loblolly in green, but I like the one on the right better. And I'm undecided if I like the tree kind of the way they look, or if I like the one on the left, the one that kind of looks like it's half dead or more bare. Do y'all have any thoughts?
Well, I think I agree with you that the one on the right is more scenic, and it's got more clarity. The one on the left, the trees look like trees you'd see in a horror movie. And I think the one on the right is more alive. So if you got to go between these two, I'd probably go with the one on the right also.
I like the loblolly itself in green. I like that, but I like the picture on the right. Maybe a little bit fuller tree. Got something in between?
Okay. Well, I'll take that back to the committee and we'll see what we can come up with. I appreciate your thoughts on that. The second item on the agenda is the Summerville Ashley River Preserve. So what's on the screen now, that is what is encompassed in phase 1 of construction that was just awarded. So just as a reminder, that is going to be the resurfacing and sealing of the existing parking lot, addition of the restrooms, some concrete pathway there along the river's edge. It's going to include some lighting, security cameras, landscaping, amenities. The bulk of that construction is going to start primarily in December is when you'll see a lot of those things starting, just because that's when we wanted to close it completely. So again, this is the final master plan that was approved. The section in that green rectangle is where phase 1 improvements are primarily going to be taking place. We have approximately $2.6 million in funds from bonds and TIF money remaining after that phase 1 is complete. And so can you move forward one more?
And while you're looking, if I may add, I was walking that today and they are surveying and getting ready for those plans.
Yes, they're just permitting and doing the wetland mitigation these couple months in between here before the construction really kicks off. So this was the estimated budget for each of those sections. With the 2.6 million, just trying to keep that in mind of what we want to tackle next, and just looking from council which direction they would like me to go. That violet section that's up at the top, which is the environmental center, my recommendation would be to look at that phase, only because it would provide parking for it. We really would like to be able to offer some environmental education that's not offered here in the town of Summerville, anywhere that I'm aware of, or even Dorchester County. So I feel like that's a great need, even if that was something council didn't want to take on immediately. By making that a full-blown environmental center, we could still use it for storage and other things, and office spaces. Another thing that is a need is on the right-hand side, the ability to put a bridge in. There's a road now that exists coming from Dorchester, kind of where that yellow is on the far right-hand side of the screen. And if we can put a bridge, install a bridge over that inlet, we basically have a trail all the way through that entire property on the right-hand side. I don't have cost estimates for that, so we would need to we could put that out as a design build and see what comes back for that. But tonight, really looking from council what direction you guys would like me to focus now that first phase is started.
I think my feeling is, now that we have the 2.6 million, and Parks and Rec needs more operational space anyway, if we could put out an RFQ for the building, because I know Amy's not really happy with what we're seeing right now. And we could work on doing the building, and we'll have it for operations. They can put offices in there and maybe some rental space to start generating income. The parking is needed. My other thought is there is an amphitheater associated with that plan in purple, and maybe stall that in the large orange parking lot. The road bed is there, so most of that pathway, except between Ladson Extension and the parking lot, would need to be done. But if we would do that second and put in an RFQ for the bridge, and if we can get an RFQ and an approximate cost, I'd like to go out this one. Amy next year has a very probable grant that she put in for this year, and they liked it, but we didn't get the grant. And they asked her to please apply next year. So that's a good chance. But I'd like to go to some of the corporations around here and see if I can't get one of them to get the bridge named after them and do that on down the line. So for me, my pick would be to get started on the building. We have the money to do it. The rest of it, we can kind of piecemeal together. And if we have some money left, to do that orange parking lot. And I'd invite all the council to speak in, since we're kind of giving Amy direction on which way to go.
Well, I like the idea of starting the Violet section and getting that, that building built also, just for the same reasons that you said, to generate maybe some income for renting it out. But what did you say about the orange section?
That parking lot, it's not going to be paved. It'll simply be clear and brush and gravelled. Amy doesn't feel like we have the time or resources to do that ourselves, so we would contract that out. So in lieu of the amphitheater, get that done. One of my personal goals is to get the Oak Brook Civic Association back up, and in 2022 have the Riverfest again, because now we'll be able to have it all on town property, and that whole area parking is already a problem. So, you know, that orange area would just be parking between the trees. And
I guess as I look at it maybe a little bit differently. While I like the design, I sent Amy a message. I just, it's hard for me to say build a building that is going to be upkeep. I don't see us renting that building very much. I don't see it, where the neighborhood, how the neighborhood and all that is. I don't think it offers the same stuff. And I just think it's going to be a long time before we're using it educationally very much. Now, I don't know if the funds have to be used in a certain amount of time or other things. I just, for me, that's kind of the latter part of what I would be doing. The bridge, I think, is a great idea. I like having the connectivity and running that, but just my thoughts.
Amy, what's the size of that building?
Well, as it is in the plan, it's 5,000 square feet. So it's a pretty large building. I mean, we could scale that back, certainly. You know, our rental facilities that we have now are in constant demand. They're rented a lot. I feel like we could rent it if it was built well. You know, we could even do contract programming similar to what we do at the rec center that wouldn't require a lot of, or wouldn't be a big strain on us. You know, it would be fairly limited, but it would be something that we could do immediately as well.
Well, I still think, I think the building is, I know it's the largest cost of everything, but I think getting that done first would be beneficial. I mean, I know of a lot of schools that go to other towns for proms and parties, and wouldn't it be nice if we had something right here to keep everybody local when they rent out for weddings and et cetera. 5,000 square feet is pretty big.
Yeah, and my thought is if we got the plantations and the conservation groups and all the historical people and all that together, they could bring a lot into that building themselves. Both promoting theirs and the interest of theirs on the river. Most people don't even know the river's there. Few know the history and the importance. And, you know, people look at it and see the black water and think it's dirty, and not knowing it's actually healthy. That's why the Indians lived on it.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Chairman. The total cost is 6,000 plus, 6 million plus. How much money do we have in Parks and Rec to,
Available that's dedicated for this facility, there's 2.6 million in funds remaining.
okay? And the violet section to do the building is 2.6.
It's estimated at that, yes.
And so is that one of the reasons you're proposing to do the building first?
No, it just kind of worked out that way. Even if it was a different amount, I still think the building would be my priority regardless of the amount. It just happened that they're the same.
And when you build a 5,000 square foot building, what will you be building it for? Entertainments, rentals? Will there be a shop in there to sell fishing supplies or whatever people want to enjoy the river?
And Mr. Jackson may want to speak to that more than me. I think there's been a lot of uses discussed. I know that part of it was discussed to be an environmental education center at one point. Part of it was to be rental space. So it is a 2-story building, the way that it was drawn and depicted. So I believe one floor was going to be more for parks and recreation use, and then the second floor was going to be more for rentals. Mr. Jackson, I don't know if you.
Yes, in the end, this idea kind of came to me from going to Lynch's River County Park up near Florence. And anybody that knows Florence, it's pretty sparse. And I thought I was lost looking for this place. It is out in the middle of nowhere. And the place was packed. And it happened not to be a school day, it was on the weekend, but they said their parking lot is full. Schools use it as classrooms, almost as part of the curriculum to teach natural history and things like that on the river. They did not use tax money. They did most of it on grants and donations. Matter of fact, the building was built out of the community, went around and tore down all the old tobacco sheds. And that's what the wood was used for on the building. So I think this could be a go-to place, much nicer than what is up at Santee Canal State Park, which is the nearest thing, anything like what I'm thinking of. And we're right here in Charleston. We have the immediate history. Hopefully we'll put a bridge across to Colonial Dorchester and bring that to life and have them included. And that would be a nice walking park from Colonial Dorchester all the way between the creeks, and have markers and things that explain the original history of Summerville. As we speak of historic Summerville, this is the true beginning. Mayor, I think your family had some land right there, as I saw on one of the old maps from back in the 1800s. So that's kind of what I envisioned for the building. I think it would be highly used. And Amy's already been asking for more rental space. We got the Cuthbert Center, which may come or go, that's going to cut down on that space. And we need some offices and things.
Amy, how much of the actual trail walkway portion will be done, is scheduled to be done?
It's hard to answer that. So some of the yellow trail that's on the far right-hand side, it already exists. It just needs to be cleaned up. Um, the section that's orange there, less the parking lot, that is already there. It exists. It's that old roadway. Whether, we decide we want it to be paved versus nature, that would have to be done. All of the green trails that you see on the interior, those are primarily in wetlands, so those are just going to be hand cleared. And then the yellow section on the left-hand side of the screen, those are need to be done. And part of that will be done in this first phase, the part that's down by the boat landing, the kayak launch, and then the top half will be completed in a future phase. A lot of the red area is going to be down on wetlands on that peninsula, and that's just a matter of hand clearing it. We've walked it. A lot of that we can do. The section, the middle section of the red, it's really wet. It's going to have to be boardwalks, or we're not going to be able to put in some of that. We couldn't find a way around it that was passable.
Well, I can't tell yellow from green, so
Oh.
as I look at this, I'm not sure. But I guess my thinking was that primarily what certainly caught my attention, and I think everybody's attention, was not a building. It was a park, and it was walkways and the ability to get out on the river and see the river and all of that. And to me, until you have that element of this, I'm not saying the building won't be used, but I believe it's going to be used substantially more if you're building it in conjunction or after the pathway part of all of this is completed.
Terry, I'd agree with you, but we can do the pathways while the building is being built. The only part of the pathways we need to go outside for is the bridge and that orange parking area. And the orange parking area is just simply gravel and clearing some of the brush out. We want to try to keep everything in this impervious, or pervious, sorry. So they already started clearing some of the trails themselves. We have the equipment to do that now. It was too wet at the time and they got stuck. So I think if we were to start on the building, the trails would probably be complete before the building.
Yes, I agree. It would be very easy to tie in the trails from that building down to the boat landing and where the Rotary Centennial Park is now, those trails. So that whole section over there, it would tie in fairly easy with
I'm
little
talking
effort.
red. I can see red. I know where red is.
Yes,
Red on water.
and the red, the loop part, the circle part is the part that we have started clearing. And again, the orange already exists. So that section is fairly easy for us to put in.
That's not where the boardwalk goes?
Yes.
It is where the boardwalk is, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
that we've got planned to be done with funds already?
No, sir.
So the funds
not
the
the
funds we're
bridge.
putting in a building with are funds that could put in a walkway? Am I asking that correctly?
That is, yes, I believe so. There's only $2.6 million of dedicated funds. The building is estimated, and everything attached to the building in that entire section is 2.6 million estimated. I don't have an estimate for that bridge. It's going to be a hard project. It's going to be an expensive project. I do believe that there's some grant opportunities that we can pursue that would potentially pay for at least part of the bridge. But we won't know until we apply for those, until we know whether we
Now,
get those.
when you say bridge, the bridge that crosses the creek,
Yes.
I'm still speaking red.
The red is going to be minimal. We can do the red in-house. Those are nature trails.
Except for the waterfront part
Right.
of it. And I think that's part of the problem with this $2.6 million. The red part is going to cost about $1 million. So if we do that, then we're stuck with 1.6, And what do we do with that? And now we don't have enough money to get a building. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, and we are timed on spending this money. It's got to go. If I remember right, it was December or early next year.
Mr. Chairman, does the building have to be 5,000 square feet?
No. No, that can be. My thought was, is we're already short offices for town and all, so we could put those offices upstairs and not have to build things down here, and that would allow Parks and Rec to have people on site, because I believe this is going to get to be a very busy park, and if we start adding outfitters on the river and stuff, as you yourself just said, you were out there this weekend, and you saw how busy the river was and the boardwalks, and if we add these amenities, how many more people are going to be there? I don't think y'all don't get down there a whole lot, I would imagine, and you don't realize how many people were down there. That parking lot is about half full of people, not boats, but just people hanging out.
I like the idea of thinking ahead, of going ahead and doing the building now, anticipation of what's going to become, because, you know, that's part of the problem of years ago of Summerville. They didn't think ahead and look at a lot of our infrastructure now. We didn't put enough money into it back then.
I think that, in my opinion, this is, Mr. Chairman, has gotten to be in some of the things that you bring to light and other things that we do. We don't know what you're doing because you hadn't brought it to light to us. And I think we ought to do it. What I think we ought to do is you put your package together and bring it back to council and let us know what you're doing, the whole package. And I'm not against any of it. I think it sounds like a great deal, but we don't have any idea what you're talking about right now.
Okay.
At least I don't.
Well, I mean,
and I don't think some of the other members of council do. I think it's a great deal, Amy. It sounds like a great deal. You know, we talked about the other parts of this project down there that we're all supportive and back at 100%. But right now, you're talking about adding to it, and it sounds great, but we don't know what it's going to cost, and y'all don't know what it's going to cost. At least you got an idea of what it's going to cost, but not an exact idea. So I would put some numbers together, come back to us, and bring it to us, and let us look at it as a group, and I think it'll fly by no means. But, you know, we get accused of doing things where everybody knows what's going on, or doesn't know what's going on. And no question, we've been guilty of doing that. And now y'all are being guilty and doing the same thing, or you have, Mr. Chairman, by accusing us. And it's the same thing. You know, bring it back to us. We'll take a good look at it, and we can get it done, no question about it. I think it's a great idea. I think we can get it moved through and do it with no question, and it'll be a great asset to the town of Summerville. And by the next council meeting, y'all can move along with it, Bob, and I'll be behind you 100%. I promise I will. I think it sounds like a good idea, but it's the first I've heard of it.
well, I'm sorry for that. I thought when we walked it and talked about it, when we talked about buying the property, I was clear. But Amy and I will get together and definitely work on a package where we can be more detailed in what we would like to do in what order.
Okay, well, get it back to us, and we'll certainly look into it. And I promise you, I'm for it. I know what you're talking about. I think it'd be a great idea. Is that satisfactory to everybody? We can take a look at it and move forward.
Okay, and just as a reminder, $2 million of this is the county's. So
Yeah.
it's not just us working alone, we are working jointly with the county on it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, let me say this, Bob, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Mayor. I've been on council a long time, and the last 12 years or so, we've got a habit of starting projects where we don't have the money to complete the projects. And I know through PARD, you can get grants and all that sort of thing. That I think one of the problems we have right now financially as a town is we've got too many projects going that we don't have the money to complete these projects. And I think that's not a good way to do business. I think we need to know, when we talk about doing something, we need to know where we're going to find the money. Because, if you look at the Maple Street project and you look at other things, sidewalks and things that we were planning to do in town and we find we don't have the money, I think we need to take a close look at what things are going to cost. It's one of the reasons I ask about the building. Does it have to be 5,000 square feet? And, I think we need to investigate these other costs, the red, the orange, the blue, and all of that, and know where there's possibility we can get the money in a grant or something before we launch forward with just part of the money to do part of the project. I think that's very important. If you look at things from a business standpoint, it's not a good idea to start a project and you don't have all the money to do it, because some of the criticisms that I'm getting right now in the re-election year is the fact that we got so many projects going and we don't have the money to finish these projects. So I think it's something that we just think about seriously.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I don't normally speak in committee meetings that I don't actually serve on the committee, but you did invite all of us to weigh in, so I will. I was and still very excited about this acquisition, and in my mind, the primary reason to spend the money to acquire this property was twofold. Was obviously to keep it from being developed commercially, residentially, but also to open up access to the river itself. And I know we always talked about a building. I know Lynch's River. I know Lynch's River County Park. It's used to be a state park. It got demoted, but it's a very impressive building. Would love to see a building like that at this park one day. But in all of the discussions that I recall with the consultant and otherwise, that I don't want to say the building was an afterthought, but it was going to be the icing on the cake, not the cake. When I look at this map, and it's just my personal opinion, when you look at what's already existing, the trails that are already existing, and you look at getting people to see the river, it just seems like the red section, particularly the construction of the boardwalks on the right-hand side of the red section, just seems like the obvious focal point for development, but that's just my opinion.
I think we are doing that, and that is our primary and first focal point. I guess at this point, we'll put the package together that you asked for. I guess I would like a motion from the committee to allow Amy to put in an RFQ for the bridge and for the boardwalk along the river in red, so that we can find out about what those things would cost. And we will also be inviting companies that do that to come in and advise us on the best way to do it. So if somebody would like to make that motion, and then while that's happening, Amy and I will relook at our priorities and see what we can do.
Well, I'll make that motion using those words to get all that.
I'll second that, Bob.
All in favor?
Aye.
And do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make
make
a
a mo-
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, it's up to you.
I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Planning and Development Committee. Item A, Ms. Schuler.
Petition by Brianna L. Dohan to annex Dorchester County TMS number 14507030036, located at 112 Dove Lane and totaling approximately 0.26 acres. Currently zoned R2 Single Family Residential in Dorchester County and will be zoned GR5 General Residential upon annexation into the town of Summerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 3. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on June 21st, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion, we send this to full council with a recommendation to approve.
I'll second.
Any further questions for Ms. Schuler? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of Councilman Jenkins' motion, say aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Petition by Ladson Properties LLC to annex Dorchester County TMS number 15400000063, located on Ladson Road and totaling approximately 1.5 acres. Currently zoned CG General Commercial in Dorchester County and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Summerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 6. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on June 21st.
I'll make a motion that we send this to council for approval.
Second.
Any questions? This is the Culver's, proposed Culver's location on Ladson Road. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Petitions to annex Dorchester County TMS numbers 14400000083, 751 Orangeburg Road, 14400000013, 713 Orangeburg Road, 14400000156, 172 Reed Street, 14400000183 Orangeburg Road, 4 parcels totaling approximately 72.89 acres. Currently zoned R1 and R1A Single Family Residential in Dorchester County and will be zoned PUD Planned Development District upon annexation into the town of Summerville's municipal limits, and the existing Knightsville Tract PUD shall be amended to include these parcels and the additional proposed language. This would be in Council District 4. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on June 21st.
I'll make a motion that we send this to council for approval.
Second.
Any further questions for Ms. Schuler or any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Request to rezone TMS number 14506010005, located at 55 Old Trolley Road, approximately 0.55 acres and owned by Christopher M. Limehouse, from GR5 General Residential to NB Neighborhood Business. This is in Council District 3. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for denial at their meeting on June 21st.
I'll make a motion that we move this to full council with a recommendation for denial.
Second.
And I just want to say, to enter this property, you have to travel through the residential area. There's no access to Trolley Road.
And that's why I'm going to support the motion that's Mr. Jackson, seconded by Mr. Jenkins. When I first saw the petition, I thought, well, it's Old Trolley Road. They're just trying to get neighborhood business. That seems on its face reasonable, rational, until you drive out there and realize that a business in this location would be accessed through the middle of a residential neighborhood. If there are any other questions from Ms. Schuler or other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to send to council with a recommendation of denial, raise your right hand and say aye.
Petition by the Bluffs at Ashley River Property Owners Association Incorporated to annex Dorchester County TMS number 15200000013, located off Ashley Bluffs Road and totaling approximately 49.92 acres, currently zoned PD, Plan Development in Dorchester County, and will be zoned AC, Agricultural Conservation, upon annexation into the town of Summerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 5. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on June 21st.
I'll make a motion, we pass this for council with the recommendation of approval. Second.
Any questions from Ms. Schuler or further discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
I have no other items for consideration.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 I'll be calling the Public Safety Committee to order. The first report we'll get is from Doug Wright for the Police Department. He's going to give us an update.
Thank you.
No.
There's going to be a test.
Good evening, council. How was everybody? All right, so starting out and go to the next slide. 2020 through 2021 to date, the numbers are skewed because of COVID. Obviously, the call volume and the type of calls we're responding to have changed drastically in a couple of areas. But if you follow down the calls for service, we're going into our 7th month of the year now, and we are almost we're going to double where we are. It looks like on most everything. But if you go down our calls for service, we're negative 9% right now. But that's only 6 months into the year. 50% negative. We had 1 homicide. Thank the Lord for that. Versus 2 last year, but we're halfway through the year. Obviously, people are back out on the roads, and we're enforcing traffic laws because of COVID, past tense for our officers' enforcement. So you can see the enforcement's up 67% halfway through the year. Traffic collisions, they're up 16% as people are out on the roads again. The startling number here is going to be your mental health and your overdose, the next 2 lines. The mental health call volume is drastic as compared to what it was last year, and I will attribute this mostly to COVID and what's you've seen with obviously the economy and family loved ones' deaths and just dealing with job losses and whatnot. So the overdoses is startling. We're up to 50 overdoses. We've had 2 since I made this PowerPoint in the last week. We're responding to overdoses every day. We bring people back to life every day with Narcan, us in the fire department. So this is a number that we need to keep an eye on. It's up 67% in 6 months of the year. And this is from all varying ages, from young to old. The one we had on Sunday morning or Monday morning was an 18-year-old. Auto B&Es, we're going to be over that number, obviously, as you can see, negative 5%. Domestic violence, that number is going to change also because of what's happening with COVID. People who have been at home, they're cooped up inside. Obviously, they have problems at home. It's going to reflect that way. Welfare checks, we're back to doing what we're supposed to be doing and getting out there and checking on people. Property watches, negative 47%. We'll double that number. And then shoplifting, negative 25%. We'll double that number. And indecent exposures, 14%. We're up. So next slide, please. Any questions about that?
So this, for 2020, you don't mean for the same 5-6 months of the year. You mean for the entire year?
The entire year.
Okay.
It's drastic. Obviously, a lot changed. We weren't doing much of anything because we were trying to limit interaction at the time, but it's pretty startling, the numbers. So the next closest thing you're gonna have to look at to even compare it to would be 2019. Next slide, please. Obviously, we got a grant that you all knew of, the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation, $20,235 awarded by Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation for purchase of 16 Zoll AEDs, automatic defibrillators. So we're getting those out to our officers. We did have some, but they were dated, and we'll be passing a couple over to Parks and Recreation so that they can have not of two of the older ones, not these new ones that we've been gifted with, but that way they can have an AED at a couple of the parks where people work out and whatnot. Next slide, please. Obviously, Bowler Wrap, we've talked a little about this. We received a grant through the South Carolina Municipal Insurance Trust. The grant was used to purchase 5 of these devices and the tune of $6,287. We have a request in through a federal grant for 115 more. We're the first agency in the Low Country or in the Tri-County area to deploy this onto our officers' hands. But if you haven't seen it, it's pretty phenomenal. It's almost science fiction the way it works, but it shoots out an 8-foot cord of Kevlar with 2 hooks on it. And if you have a patient that's a mental health patient or somebody who may be distraught, and it's just one more thing we can have, our tool we have on our belt to help restrain somebody. It's gained a lot of fanfare, and in fact, I was contacted today by Congresswoman Mace's office. She wants to come and see this demo Tuesday and talk to us about mental health and how we're dealing with it here in Summerville.
Where are you gonna shoot it at?
Where would you like me to shoot it, sir?
No, I just think, I meant, where was that gonna take place?
Wherever you want it to be, sir.
Councilman Jenkins is volunteering.
I have
to,
been shot with it, and I've had it deployed on me, and I've deployed it on somebody as well. And I'll invite all of you to come if you'd like to, but it has a 380 charge of a starter pistol in it, so it has a little bit of a sound for concussion, but it is very effective. I think it's in the 92 to 95% effective rate of use. So there's been several instances.
Doug, one of the prerequisites for being a council member should be you should have to be tased.
You're first, sir. Okay. Next slide.
You can
Please.
shoot it right in Terry's office, Doug.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
right there in Terry's office. That'd be good.
We can arrange that. The 2020 South Carolina Hero Awards for DUI. We had 4 officers recently recognized at the state level. PFC Howard was a Silver Award recipient with 24 to 49 DUI arrests. FTO Ray Gayhart bronze with 10 to 24. PFC Jonathan James bronze 10 to 24, and also PFC Tanner Begin with 10 to 24. So that was pretty good numbers considering there was not a lot of traffic enforcement last year because of COVID. A lot of people were on the road, so we're hoping that this year we'll be able to arrest more impaired drivers than we did last year. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go down line by line unless you ask for a particular item, but I'll give you just a brief synopsis on these numbers. Right now, we have 23 grants that we have pending to the tune of $352,257.28. We've had 1 denied. We've had 8 approved, and there are 12 still outstanding right now for under review. So if you have any questions about any of those, I'm more than happy to expound upon it.
Just tell us briefly what a community engagement officer's duties are.
I'm making a big push for, we have officers who work on proactive team called the Special Enforcement Team, but they have to balance the table because they go to all the community events, HOA meetings, crime watch meetings, crime prevention. And so we would like to see them be able to focus more on the enforcement of proactive policing and have somebody, a team of starting out with 1 officer, hopefully with more, to be able to go out with the ice cream truck, go to these park and rec centers to pick up basketball games with kids and do different things, kind of a liaison that would go between the schools and get to know these young people through the schools and take it back to the community. A lot of these SROs, they're mentors to these young people until school ends at the end of the day. So it doesn't get carried back to their neighborhoods and back to their homes. So we're hoping to have something like this that's under a micro grant to do that. Any questions about that? Anything else? All right, next slide. We've been pretty active, considering we had COVID going through community last year. But the biggest thing we've put on the plate is with Coastal Crisis Chaplaincy with the Dignity Project. And when we speak on the Finance Committee, I'll discuss a little bit about that. But there's an opportunity for us to make really some national recognition as a police department in a town of what we've been doing here in the community. A collaborative effort we've had going on for almost a year now with all demographics and ethnicities in the town to help us have a better understanding of one another. Working with mental health and for responses, that's been something we've been working with the Department of Mental Health. We're going to roll out a telehealth program. There's only one agency in the Low Country. I don't even know how many there are in the state, but we're going to be doing it. And basically, we'll have 5 officers starting out with telehealth access. And right now, when we have a mental health call and we have to call mobile crisis to the scene, they have to come make the assessment. So what we'll have is 5 officers who will be able to do this commitment if they need to. It's called a Part 1 commitment, and they'll be able to do that from their car with their tablet. So that's pretty neat stuff. We're working to do that, obviously working to cut down on time because it's a lot of time spent with officers at the hospital. Troubleshooting the homeless population, aside from traffic, this is probably one of in mental health, obviously, and I was talking to Councilman Jenkins the other day, homelessness population and mental health, they really go hand in hand. A lot of the people we're meeting that are homeless do suffer from mental illness. So that's something else that the community engagement team officer do one that they could work on. We just did the fireworks and Freedom Festival very well. Compliments to Miss Amy Evans. They did a tremendous job out there. I was out there Sunday. It was a wonderful time. Big crew out there, a lot of people, and they all behaved. So Coffee with a Cop, we restarted it. This morning was the first Coffee with a Cop we've had since pre-COVID. School supply drive, we continue to do that. More of the ice cream truck coming to neighborhoods near you. We've continued with our public service announcements, social media to update the public on what we're doing. We rolled out one on Friday where we have one of the goals we were trying to set was to let the public know that we have Spanish-speaking officers. So we've got magnets, as I was, for some of those cars that have Spanish-speaking officers to make them more approachable. We know that ethnicity group doesn't necessarily trust the law enforcement that much because of their heritage and their background. So we like to make sure we break down that wall if we can. Movies in the park, obviously social events, traffic safety checkpoints, and something that we're really working hard to is we just created a physical fitness team of officers, and basically what they're doing is they're helping build meal plans and workout plans for officers, and they're working out on a daily combat strength fitness. And we're also have allotted time for officers to work out 30 minutes per day during their work hour to hopefully make them more healthy mentally, physically, and cut down on injuries as well. So we also have the Biggest Loser Challenge. We're challenging officers to cut down on weight and do different things to try to be more healthy. So any questions about any of that? Next slide, please. Any questions? We're good? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Chief, appreciate
Good
it.
report. Chief Waring? Thank you. Appreciate it, buddy.
Sir.
I'll take it.
That's yours.
All right, just quick update of what we've had going on year to date this year. Just run down events, our major incident types, fires 113 total this year. Explosion, no heat calls, 1. No fire, no, those are non-fire related. EMS, of course, is still about 60% of our call volume at 1,623 calls so far this year. Other hazardous conditions, 73. Service calls, 130. Good intent calls, 421. False alarm, 366. And special incident types is 10. Any questions about the call volume? We're right on pace where we were back in 2019. We had in 2020, as Chief Wright said, our call volume did slow down as well. During when everybody would lock down and went into their homes, people weren't going to the hospitals as often, so our medical calls dropped naturally. So we're back on pace to what the equivalent of the 2019 calls will be this year. And we had picked back up last year, right? Going into by the end of summer last year, we were back on pace to where we would be in a normal year. Coincidentally, fire calls actually picked up last year when the medical calls went down. So more people were home. They were cooking more in their houses, and some people weren't used to cooking. So anyway. All right. So other things happening in the department. We just finished going through proposal evaluations for our Fire Station 6 on Miles Jamison Road. That'll be on the Finance Committee agenda for this evening as well. We've got the proposals in and did some interviews of 3 of the design build teams. And so after tonight, we'll hopefully negotiate with one and get the price right to where we can try to move forward as low as possible so we can move forward with that project. Just under apparatus, we've had 2, we had a ladder truck we ordered last year that got pushed back because of the pandemic. The factory is shut down. So it was supposed to be in earlier this year. It got pushed to August. There was an opportunity for us to have that truck show at the International Conference in Indianapolis in August, but unfortunately it's not be completed in time to be able to make it for the show. So they actually had to push that one out. Another engine that we ordered last year will be in October of this year. So that's 2 deliveries we'll take right not too far from each other. I made a few changes in the order of apparatus. We had ordered the engine that we ordered last summer. We had ordered it for our Station 6, the new station. With the delays in getting that project going and moving forward, we're actually going to use that engine. The engine that's coming in October, we're going to replace an engine at the Trolley Road Fire Station and use the engine that's included in this year's budget that was going to replace that engine and order it for Station 6. So it'll be open next year. So just kind of just reshuffle the numbers more or less. Other apparatus updates. We got some trucks that have been down for a while. We're having a hard time getting parts. One of our engines has been down for about a month and a half now. We're waiting on a radiator for it, actually. So we have them in a reserve truck right now. It's just apparatus. They thought they had the radiator. They went to deliver it, and they said they didn't have a radiator. So we're just kind of waiting on a part now for that truck to get back in service. All right. The personnel, we currently have 7 openings in the department, firefighter positions. We have an application period open right now. We have 23 applicants that'll start at the end of September, and it'll be a 6-week program. These are certified firefighters we're going to hire off the ground and put them through a 6-week program to just kind of teach them the way we do business here in Summerville and get them ready to go on the floor. So after that, we should be full and kind of playing around with what we'll do next year, whether we do another recruit school next year. If we can stay pretty full between now and the first part of the year, then we'll won't do another recruit school next spring, which will be nice, and it's a strain off of our training division and whatnot. So we can just stay full from here on. That would be ideal. Qualified drivers are an issue we're having with the youth of our department. It takes a little bit of time to be able to operate the fire truck. So we're putting together our training division that's going to sponsor a course that'll basically get these young firefighters in this course and do a driving course / pump operations course, aerial operation course, and they'll complete the program and come out as a qualified driver. So we're just kind of doing a crash course on this. No pun intended there. We want to avoid the crashes, but we wrapped up our recruit school, of course, back in June. Out of the 12 that we had graduate, 3 of them went right to the floor because they were already EMT certified. The other 8 are in EMT class for about another 2 weeks, and then they'll hit the floor as well. So then they'll be ready to go to the department. So we are up to 31 personnel in the department that are National Registry certified EMTs. This has been a push on our end just to provide better trained personnel to respond to these 60% of our call volume being medical calls. It just gets a higher level of training for those guys and gals that are running those calls out there. We were actually able to get 14 personnel certified with swift water training in the past 2 months. Between May and June, we sent 2 different groups of 7 personnel to the National Whitewater Center in North Carolina, who came out of there certified in swift water. That's going to help us out. Actually, tomorrow night we're going to stand up a team for the storm. We're going to have 4 personnel on standby at Station 2 on Loudon Drive with a Zodiac boat that we have, an inflatable boat that we have, just to be ready if there's any responses needed or evacuation needed from homes that are flooded. And other than that, the only other thing I put on the discussion was a burn ordinance. About once 2 or 3 times a year, one of you all will ask me about a burn ordinance. It just came up recently again. And while we don't have a burn ordinance, what our department utilizes is the International Fire Code, which we do have adopted through ordinance. The International Fire Code authorizes us as the fire officials to extinguish a fire on someone's property that's burning debris. So we have the ability to do it, to extinguish or ask the residents to extinguish those fires when we receive a complaint. So it's just a matter of whether or not we received the complaint, and when we do, we go extinguish the fire. So on average, we get about 30 of those a year. It's mostly in the spring, and it picks up again in the fall, of course, because there's a time people are out working the yards for the spring and summer, and then, of course, in the fall when the leaves start hitting the ground. I've never asked you guys for a burn ordinance. If you guys want to do it, I've looked at burn ordinances, and most of them, the good ones, copy basically the International Fire Code. It's almost word for word. There's others that are out there in our area that will say you can't burn this, or this, except for this, and it almost includes everything that they had out there in the first place. So there's really not a lot of teeth to the burn ordinances that I've seen, any more so than what the fire code already allows us to do. And that's been kind of my rationale for not really pushing you guys to say, let's get a burn ordinance. If y'all want some examples of some, I can pull them. I can certainly pull them and send them to you. Happy to do that.
Yeah, well, approximately the 30 that you get per year, are you able to contain those fires? You've never had one get out of hand, right?
Sure. So they don't get out of hand, and we don't get many repeat offenders.
Right.
So
So also, if someone has got a bunch of stuff they want to burn, can they call the fire department ahead of time and say, look, I've got some stuff here. Can you send a truck over, whatever?
yeah, so DHEC only allows you to burn things that are on your yard, that, like if you trimmed your own branches and put them in your yard and burn them. So leaves and naturally growing products. So anything outside of that is going to be a DHEC violation. So that's yet another area that we get involved with. But basically, even if they call us and get permission, if we get a complaint later that day, we're still going to ask them to extinguish it. That's the way we roll it.
Any questions?
Any questions on? All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start our Public Works Committee.
I'll just go through a few project updates. Any questions along the way, let me know. Maple Street, nothing much has changed. I will say that the comments we received from DOT, those were addressed and resubmitted today, but nothing's going to happen on this project until funding, the TIF is set in place. Cedar Street Extension, we did receive final right-of-way plans, preliminary plans. I did ask Michael Baker to begin ordering appraisals for right-of-way acquisition. And again, nothing's really going to happen with this project until funding is in place from the TIF. Third item is the Central Avenue Sidewalk Project. There was discussion last month on committee wanting some additional information on this project. I think one of the questions was, how much have we spent so far on design? Total design contract was $259,116.95. To date, we've spent $159,208.50, which is 62% of the total design contract. Phase one of the design contract is about 95% complete. There's still a retaining wall to be designed and finalizing plans and some utility coordination. Phase two is also about 95% complete. So the first two phases are almost done with 62% of the funds spent for design and permitting.
The section where we had to hang up about going from Central, coming from the first part of it, I think there's section 1, Carolina Avenue.
Phase one's from Carolina to Parsons Road, about 1.1 miles.
Yeah, and then we had some problems with some of that was not in the county.
Of that 1.1 miles, about 1,000 linear feet of it was fronting unincorporated Dorchester County property.
And the cost to do that section was 79,000, something like that.
Approximately, yes, sir.
I think the mayor has been trying to help us out with that, trying to get something done through the county. Hopefully we'll be able to get something done. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure we.
Have you heard anything from them, Russ?
Yes, sir. I talked to Jason Carher, gave him the numbers that we just talked about. And he was going to recommend to his council what they should do or not do. I haven't heard what the recommendation was.
Okay.
It sounded like he was not going to recommend helping out, but that's up to their council.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, in a situation like that, where we're servicing the city residents and some county residents, what about the COG? Is there any money there we could go after the COG?
I talked to George today, immediately had lunch with him. He didn't think so. But he felt like that the county should pick up that tab, but he didn't know. He was going to talk to Jason today. And so maybe we'll find out something tomorrow. Like you say. But we don't need to start moving forward on it. Just keep going forward and we'll see what happens.
Proceed with finishing phase one?
Huh?
You want to proceed with finishing phase one?
Yeah, let's keep
Can I
moving
get
on
that
phase
motion
one.
since the motion was to stop it last month?
Yeah, let's keep moving forward, and if we get some money, that'll be fine. And
Get that in the motion.
Can we have
Mr.
that-
Chairman?
Someone on the committee, can we have that in a motion? Oh, I thought you were on my committee.
Forward on phase one.
Oh. Then I guess I second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
That's what I think we ought to do. I mean, we've been fooling around with this thing long enough.
I got a
I
motion
mean,
in a second,
you know,
that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I mean, if that comes out of y'all's committee and goes to council, that's,
Phase one on Central Avenue sidewalk project.
Any more questions on Central Avenue?
We did.
Yes. We said yay.
2-0.
West Fifth South Sidewalk, that project is submitted for permitting to DOT last month, so hopefully we'll get that ready to go soon. Lee Street, that's ready to go. I'm short staffed in my engineering office right now. That new person will start on 26th of this month, and I'll have these projects on his plate to finalize. But there is no funding for these two projects.
move
So
on whether. we
One
get
question on
help
that,
from the
about
county.
when you start on that, about how long will it take?
these projects, both of them should take 6 to 9 months. They're pretty small projects
Yeah.
once construction begins. Hickory Street, yes, sir.
Is that what we decided to do with that Central Avenue, Central Avenue sidewalk? We decided to move that forward to council, right?
That was the motion. Well, the motion was to proceed with phase one.
Okay, all right, and voted on, right?
Sir?
And voted on,
Yes, sir.
move it to the council.
No,
Okay,
to proceed with phase one design. Finish the design of phase one was a motion and an approved motion.
okay,
Finishing the design.
okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure I was right with that. Okay,
North Hickory Street sidewalk, this project was awarded at the June meeting. We did sign a contract with the construction company, and I'll be scheduling a pre-construction meeting soon, hopefully begin later this month or early August. So you'll see some activity there pretty soon, Mr. Brown. Shepherd Street Drainage Project, the pond was completed. The excavation of the pond was completed on Friday. Stormwater will still have to come back and install the piping system to get it functional. Stormwater did complete the Peter Street portion of this project last week as well, so that is functional and in place. I hope we will see a difference in that area tomorrow night, Thursday. Springview Lane Oak Brook drainage project. we're finalizing the plat for that. We'll be preparing easement documents and getting those to the property owners for signatures. One of the property owners is South Carolina Mental Health, so I have to go through their board out of Columbia to get that done. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. We're getting that ready very soon to go. The Bear Island Road traffic signals, it is functional. I did receive design for the signal, the permanent signals. I'm reviewing those right now. We'll get those out and get them ordered hopefully this month. That's all the project updates. Any questions on any of those items?
Madam Chairman, Chairperson,
Yes.
the red property, you know, when we had the flooding the other day, were you able to suspend that?
Yes, sir.
until-
Flooding did occur on June 5th. So we did shut that project down that following week and is still shut down. We're waiting information from their engineer. So it'll remain no activity until we receive that information.
That was a good move, thanks.
Is that the we consider that the Shepherd's Park drainage, Russ?
It's in the same area, yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
On the red property.
So that's still shut down till you get, till they satisfy you with your
Well, the development
concerns?
Mr. Brown's is referring to on the rep property is shut down.
Red
Yeah,
property.
okay,
But our project, our Shepherd Park Drainage Project is proceeding.
yeah, okay,
They've dug it out. You just need the piping to make it work, right?
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good, good.
Item B, West Carolina Avenue sidewalk. Last month, there was discussion on pedestrian crossings on Carolina, and then the recommendation was to install a crossing at Buford Street at the three-way stop. Then that discussion evolved into a sidewalk along Carolina to help that crossing. We did look at a sidewalk along Carolina between Buford and Laurel Street, 410 feet, and estimated construction cost about $40,000 along the east side of West Carolina Avenue. That's kind of where we are there. I don't know if we want to proceed that or.
Is there any discussion about this?
What would you need from council to proceed with it?
Money. Funds.
You said that was about 410?
It's about 410 feet. Yes, ma'am. We would need to first do a design on it, permit it, and bid it out for construction.
Well, do we have a motion to go ahead and send this up to full council?
That would be my motion.
And I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Item C is a Plantation Circle traffic calming. This was discussed last month, and staff did implement some improvements on site at Plantation Circle, 2 intersections, and there are some calls from the neighborhood, both against and for. Just put this on the agenda for discussion.
I'll go ahead and elaborate on that somewhat. So there was 2 intersections that you had used, something that you already had in the warehouse. We put it down, they put it down to keep the traffic going to the right as they come up to the circle and exiting on the right. I got numerous phone calls and emails from half of the people that live on this circle were for it. The other half thought it was terrible. Talked to the incoming HOA president, because we had talked before we had come together last meeting and had talked about the signs of putting up one-way signs prior to the yield sign and a little bit larger so people could see them as they were coming up on to Plantation Circle. After speaking with the HOA president, I spoke with Russ again and said, let them have that, what do we call these things?
curb delineator system.
Okay. And let them use it for over the next 30 days, and then come back to the people that live there and see how they feel about it. Because after I went up there and actually saw it, I thought, well, this actually looks like it could work, keeping people going the opposite direction in the one-way circle. So I was gonna get with the people up there and see what they felt after 30 days of having this in place. So I told Russ, let's just put it off until our August meeting, till we bring up anything else.
And we did go out and straighten up the existing one-way signs, clean them off, so they're all more visible now.
Okay. All right.
Item D, stormwater calculations for golf courses. I think this came up from our only golf course in town and their stormwater fees. Basically, the way we calculate golf courses or we treat it as a commercial property. We based on impervious area. We have an equation or formula, put that data into, and it spits out an annual stormwater fee. This stormwater fee annually is about $7,000. It's based on about 440,000 square feet of impervious surface. That includes parking lot, clubhouse, tennis courts, and the golf cart path around the entirety of the golf course, all 18 holes. That's just how we calculate every commercial property. I think there's thoughts of creating another way of calculating it. I don't know what the thoughts were of council members of the committee.
I don't know. I don't know anything about this.
Madam Chairman, if I might just ask a question, what do other communities do? It's my understanding that I can't say what percentage, but some percentage of other communities, when they are looking at golf courses, that they generally do parking lots and the buildings and don't include the paths. And I thought at Pine Forest, those were clay courts, impervious courts.
But clay is impervious. Clay is as impervious as concrete or asphalt.
Okay.
It's hard. It's like what we're sitting on here. All I know about other entities is I learned this afternoon, Myrtle Beach only includes the golf, the clubhouse and parking lot area. I guess they don't include the cart paths. We do.
Well, I'll weigh in. I do believe that I recall when we changed the calculation for stormwater, the commercial areas, and the idea was that some of these, big box retailers with huge parking lots simply weren't paying what was paying for themselves, but paying for the stormwater runoff that their commercial enterprises were causing. So we went with this new calculation 2 years ago, 3 years ago, somewhere in there. And in my view, what happened with we have one complete golf course in town. We have another that's partially in town, but that with the new calculations, in my view, it was an unintended consequence. And I'm not an engineer, but I would be surprised if these cart paths, they are obviously impervious surfaces. I do hear from people that seem to know what they're talking about, that take a different view on the clay courts. They don't think clay tennis courts are impervious. I don't know, but I would be surprised that these golf cart paths are causing stormwater runoff that we're having to deal with. That would surprise me. So I think that's the logic behind what Myrtle Beach does, is they don't count the golf cart paths, not because they're not impervious. They are. They're just not causing stormwater runoff. I mean, I just think it was an unintended consequence. I don't know what the golf course's stormwater bill was under the old way, but I assume it was a whole lot less than $7,000, maybe a fraction of that.
I think about 25, 30% of that.
So, I don't have I just learned of that how Myrtle Beach approached it today as well, but I would like to see us as a council look at a way to make sure that we want people to pay for the stormwater runoff that they're causing. But if this was an unintended consequence and their bill tripled, and the government doesn't need to be a beneficiary of that if those golf cart paths aren't actually causing stormwater runoff.
I will say, Councilman McIntosh, since we did this, the town did accept maintenance of all the storm pond system on the golf course. We lifted that burden from the golf course of that maintenance responsibility. So since we changed the ordinance 2 years ago.
Okay, is there any other questions or discussion?
I don't have a motion. I just think it's something we need to take a close look at.
I want staff to study looking at revising the ordinance to give them some relief.
I would like to make sure that we're calculating impervious surfaces that actually cause stormwater runoff. I mean, I think it's uncontroverted that parking lots cause it, that buildings that have parking lots surrounding them cause it. When you're providing 75, 80 acres of outdoor public recreation and you've got a little ribbon of a golf cart path running around it, like I said, I'd be surprised if that's causing stormwater runoff.
So do you want staff to?
So we have a motion.
I started with yes. I'll make a motion to have staff look at ways to recalculate or stormwater calculation for outdoor recreation areas.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Item E, final item is golf roads one way. Huh? Good, I'm done then.
Oh. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
I second. All in favor? Aye.
All right, Mr. Dan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here to present our June financial report. And follow along here, I'll hit some of the highlights here. Looking at our June actuals for revenue, property taxes, we've taken in $194,055.55 in the month of June. Licenses, permits, and fees, we have realized $7,766,814.03 revenue. Courts, fines, and fees, $27,292.38. State revenues, $212,801.77. Miscellaneous revenues, $953,824.82. Our total take for June on revenues has been $9,154,788.55, which brings our year-to-date to $20,509,597.74. Looking at our expenditures, June expenditures, we're looking at $1,109,013.52 to bring our year-to-date actuals to $18,234,388.52. And these aren't our final FY21 numbers just yet. We're still in the process of reconciling, but the overall total should be pretty close to where we are. On the second page, just a detail of some of the revenue. I'll just call out a few of the highlights here on page 2. Business licenses in the month of June, we took in $1,837,635.80. That brings our year-to-date total through to $3,637,707.88. The jump there was, of course, because we've started our renewal period. Another big jump we saw was business license insurance. We received our payment from MASC. So that brings our year-to-date to $4,218,442.28 for that. Looking further down in our revenues, under miscellaneous revenues, we did receive our reimbursement from Dorchester School District 2 in the amount of $780,000. And that is the highlights that I have here for the revenue. Looking at our impact fees, for FY21, what we have received in the month of June, both commercial and residential, total $25,709.42, bringing our year-to-date for impact fee revenues at $380,274.29. And year-to-date expenses against that, $43,011.44 in total. For hospitality tax, June, we've received $259,843.79, bringing our year-to-date actual to $2,128,750.83. Expenditures, in June, you'll see that it's $96,145.12. That was primarily more work to the Bear Island Road mast arms, as well as some reimbursable tourism grant expenses. And looking at stormwater, our June actuals, let me see here. For revenue was $8,366.24, bringing our year-to-date to $1,154,455.84. Expenditures, the numbers there are capturing both operating and capital expenses. So it looks a little higher than the actual year-to-date actual for our operating expenses, $871,405.58. And a large portion of our June expenditures was the Germantown Stormwater Retention Pond project, which is ongoing. That's the highlights we have for now. If anybody has any questions on anything in there.
Thank you, Dan.
Great, thank you.
Next is authorization for the fire chief to provide a notice of intent to award the design and construction of Fire Station 6 to Design Build Construction LLC and negotiate a final cost of the project.
I make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve this.
Second. Jeez.
Got that one right there. Got it.
Mr. Mayor, you got anything for me? Any questions for me?
You present this authorization to issue the purchase order for the amount of,
No, sir. It's not for the purchase order. This is so we went through the design proposals,
yeah,
and Design Build Construction had the best proposal. So we just need to go back through now to come up with plug in our allowances, pull out do some value engineering to try to bring the cost of the construction down. To look at the entire project, see where we can save some money as far as the design of the construction. So, and then bring the final cost with requisition back to you in August for approval of the building.
And Chief, I believe you said in committee meeting that you interviewed 3 of the companies that submitted proposals.
Yes, sir.
And this is your selection based on those interviews and the proposals.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Yeah. Proposal prices came back from anywhere from a little over $3 million to a little under $5 million. So we took the best 3 and went through those, and some proposed some allowances, some didn't. So we once we compare apples to apples and had an equal playing field, Design Build Construction had the best proposal.
I did sit in on the going over the proposals and seconded the motion. I think we've let it where it needs to be let.
Just, I think you've told us before that was going to be the total cost of your fire station.
So right now we're the proposal price they provided was 3.2 billion. So we got to go back through that and pull out some allowances. For an example, they gave a $75,000 allowance for landscaping. We're going to do some of the landscaping in house, so it won't cost us 75,000. So we need to work on that number, and then look at the building itself and see some areas where we can, trim back on just anything in the building to try to save some money.
Thank you.
Right.
Mayor? We got a motion and a second. That's all I have.
Okay, motion and a second. Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Ayes carry.
Authorization to issue a purchase order to IACP TV in the amount of $22,500 for video production, with funds to come from local hospitality tax. The request is from the police department.
I make this motion that we approve this, Mr. Mayor. I think Doug's going to give us some information, though.
I'll second.
Okay. Ayes carry.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wasting money.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm just making novice moves by bringing everything up, but I hope I'm doing it
That's
right.
fine.
So we were contacted by the International Chiefs of Police Association a couple weeks ago, and basically a few years ago, under Chief John Rogers and then Colin Martin, the town administrator, we were asked to do a video about leadership and basically innovative leadership that the town was seeing as far as police leadership and how our police department was moving. It was a absolutely phenomenal opportunity for us to, at the time, to film this video. So basically, the International Chiefs of Police Association is the largest chiefs of police organization in the world. There's usually about 16,000 attendees from all over the world that will attend, 1,000 from out of the country, and that's going to be in September in New Orleans. And basically, they reached back out to us, and it was unusual. He said, the gentleman I spoke to is the producer for IACP, to ask for an agency to come back. Basically, the second time they did it, they asked, and we just paid a $5,000 fee for the same video to play a second time. But he said it's unusual for them to come back to an agency again. Basically, they talked about the Dignity Project and some of the things we're doing here in town. Obviously, they talked about some other rollouts that we were doing. But basically, what they did, and why I'm asking for this to be paid for out of hospitality taxes, because it was before, but also because at the time they highlighted the intent is to highlight the entire town. And they did that last time with Mr. Martin. He spoke on the video about the growth, about Volvo, about everything that was coming to the town. And basically this is played over and over and over on loops throughout all the hotels, throughout the facilities where they're having the training for the week. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to highlight what the town is doing as a police department, as well as the town of Summerville, what we're doing and how innovative we are in this realm to be recognized again. So I'm just respectfully requesting this to be an opportunity for us to try to do this again.
And they did cut the price for you, right?
Yes, sir. Thanks for mentioning that. So the price has gone up to, he said, ballpark 38,000 to 40,000 a video now. He said that because we did do it previously, that he would honor the 22,500 if we chose to do that. So.
Got a motion in a second?
Yes.
Yeah, can I have a motion? We got a motion?
I made the motion.
Got a motion and a second. I think this is a great thing for our police department. With all the negative stuff that's going on with police departments across our country, with this defunding and all this negative stuff, this is a positive thing for our police department. And our police department is highly regarded, I think, and I know in our community and around our community. I think it's a positive thing. So if there's no other discussion, I'd like to call for the question. All in favor of this signify by raising your hand, voting aye.
Aye.
And opposed likewise. Ayes, carry. Thank you, sir.
Discussion of upcoming or proposed agenda items for the council meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Meeting's adjourned. I know, we ain't got but two. We ain't got but two. That's why I say, we ain't voting on the check. We ain't voting on the check. It was council. Yeah,
Only little industry we got.
yeah, we'll vote between now and Wednesday, Thursday night. I talked to Terry and Bill. We need to vote that down. I'll tell you one damn thing, Beaufort Blanton's will raise hell.
Tell you what, what we need to start doing is making these damn departments heads. When they come up